What's up guys, it's Cal, and in this video we'll be taking a look at Holy Paladins on the Battle for Azeroth beta. We'll be looking at their baseline abilities as well as their passives. Then we'll take a look at their talents and PvP talents. Now there are a moderate amount of changes to Holy Paladins. I wouldn't say they got some huge revamp like it seems like some classes did, but there are changes there. And just like my other overview videos, the purpose of this video is not meant to tell you which talents to pick for the best healing, or if Holy is better than other healing specs at healing. This is merely to show you what's to come. So, let's get started. Now here are all the baseline abilities to the Holy Paladin. First off, we have Hammer of Justice, which has not changed. You know, it's a 1 minute cooldown, it's your 6-second stun. Then Consecration. Consecration's effect does not change, so it still consecrates the land beneath you, causing holy damage over 12 seconds to enemies who enter the area, and you can put one down at a time. The only semi-change to it is its base cooldown is going down from 9 seconds, on live it's 9 seconds, it's going down to 4.5 seconds in BFA, because as you see there, it says 3.8 seconds for me because it is based off your haste, but Consecration's cooldown is going down ultimately. Then we have Crusader Strike, not changed at all, still has a cooldown based off your haste, deals physical damage, has 2 charges. Judgment is also not changed, also has a cooldown based off your haste, like a lot of Paladin abilities do. Judges the target, dealing some holy damage, causing the target to take 30% increased damage from your next Crusader Strike or Holy Shock. So it's not changed. And then we have Blessing of Sacrifice. So Blessing of Sacrifice is, first off, its cooldown is going down from 2.5 minutes to 2 minutes, and then its effect is slightly changed, though I believe it's ultimately a buff. So it blesses a party or raid member, reducing their damage taken by 30%, but you suffer 75% of damage prevented. So on live, I believe you suffer all of that damage prevented. So it's essentially you put it on target, they take 30% less damage, but then you get that 30% damage tacked on to you. Well, it seems like in BFA, there's about a 25% damage difference that is just stuck in limbo and kind of vanishes out of thin air because you take 75% of that 30% damage reduction, if that makes sense. And then the second effect is the same. Last 12 seconds or until transfer damage would cause you to fall below 20% health. Then we have Avenging Wrath. So still a 2 minute cooldown, call upon the lights to become an avatar of retribution, increasing your damage, healing, and critical strike chance by 30% for 20 seconds. So what this does on live is it increases your healing by 35%, and it increases your critical strike chance by 20%. So now your critical strike chance is being increased by more, but your healing's being decreased by slightly some. But now it will also increase your damage on top of increasing your healing and critical strike chance. So that's kind of nice. And then we have Aura Mastery. So 3 minute cooldown still, only change to Aura Mastery is it lasts for 8 seconds, up from 6 seconds. Then Beacon of Light. So it fundamentally does the same thing, wraps a single ally in holy energy, causing your heals on other party or raid members to also heal that ally for 40% of the amount healed, but targeting this ally directly with Flash of Light or Holy Light refunds 25% of the mana spent on those heals. On live, that's 30%. So you are getting slightly less mana refunded to you. And then we have, let's see, Divine Steed, not changed at all, 45-second cooldown. You hop into a Divine Steed for 3 seconds, increase your movement speed by 100%, and you can still use it while indoors or in combat. Lay on Hands is not changed. You know, it's been in the game since like the beginning. 10 minute cooldown, it heals you for all of your health, or you can put on a friendly target, and it still causes Forbearance. So Flash of Light does not change, costs a lot of mana to heal a target for quite a bit of health, and has a short cast time. Holy Light is also not changed, an efficient heal that heals a friendly target for a moderate amount. Holy Shock. So it still has a cooldown based off your haste, triggers a burst of light on the target dealing holy damage to an enemy, or it heals a target, and it has an additional 30% critical effect chance. On live, it has a double effect crit chance. So it is being 30% in BFA. And then we have Light of the Martyr, which is not changed at all. You sacrifice some of your health to heal an ally, and it won't heal your Beacon of Light target, and it cannot be cast on yourself. Light of Dawn is also not changed. You know, it's an AoE frontal cone heal. And then we have Hand of Reckoning. It's a 8-second cooldown taunt, not changed at all. Cleanse is also not changed. 8-second cooldown, dispels poisons, all poisons, diseases, and magic effects from the target. Blessing of Freedom is also not changed. 25-second cooldown. It rids a target of all other movement impairing effects. And then the rest of these abilities are not changed. Hand of Protection, one of your bubbles, 5 minute cooldown, makes you immune to all physical attacks and harmful effects for 10 seconds, and it causes Forbearance. Divine Shield, immune to all damage and harmful effects for 8 seconds, 5 minute cooldown, also causes Forbearance. And then Divine Protection, 1 minute cooldown, not change, reduces all damage you take by 20% for 8 seconds. Absolution, that's your AoE res, it has not changed. Redemption, that is your normal res, also not changed. Now let's take a look at the passive abilities. So Heart of the Crusader is not changed. You move 20% faster while mounted, and it doesn't stack with other effects. So Infusion of Light did have a slight nerf to it, so it's still passive. Your Holy Shot critical reduce the cast time of your next Holy Light by 1.5 seconds, or increase the healing of your next Flash of Light by 40% on live. That's 50%. So it is going down to 40%. And then your Mastery is not changed, increases healing done by up to some percentage based on the proximity of your target. And then Righteousness is actually removed. So Righteousness increases your health by maximum health by 15%. That is no longer a passive. Now let's take a look at the talents, and I'll also go over PvP talents in case you care about those as well. So for the first tier talents for the Holy Paladin, it's actually completely unchanged. Not changed at all. Crusader's Might, passive. Crusader Strike reduces the cooldown of Holy Shock and a Light of Dawn by 1.5 seconds. Bestow Faith, 12-second cooldown. Begin mending the wounds of a friendly target, healing them for some amount after 5 seconds. So it's not changed. And then Light's Hammer, 1-minute cooldown. You put down a Light Hammer, which does holy damage to enemies around it, and it heals allies around it for some amount every 2 seconds for 14 seconds. And then we have the second tier. So Unbreakable Spirit is, well, it's not changed. Its pictures just changed. So actually this entire tier is not changed. Unbreakable Spirit reduces the cooldown of your Divine Shield, Divine Protection, and Lay on Hands by 30%. So not changed. Cavalier gives Divine Steed 2 charges, and then Rule of Law 30-second recharge increases the range of your heals and the reach of your Mastery by 50% for 10 seconds. So this third tier, just like the previous two, is completely unchanged. So Fist of Justice, Judgment reduces the remaining cooldown on Hammer of Justice by 10 seconds, not changed. Repentance, that is a 15-second cooldown CC that can be used on humanoids, demons, undead, dragonkin, and giants, also not changed. And then Blinding Light, 1.5-minute cooldown. It's an AoE that disorients targets around you, 10-yard radius around you for 6 seconds. And then non-holy damage will break the disorient effect. So that tier is completely unchanged. Then we have the level 60 tier, which is actually probably the most changed tier out of all of them. So all these abilities should, of course, look familiar to you. Their just effects have been slightly altered. So for Devotion Aura, damage dealt to allies within 10 yards is reduced by up to 10%. On live, that's 20%, diminishing as more allies enter the aura. And then the second effect is the same. So while Aura Mastery is active, all affected allies gain 20% damage reduction. Then we have Aura of Sacrifice. So the first effect, while you're above 75% health, 10% of all damage taken by allies within 10 yards is redirected to you, which is the same as on live, but it's reduced by half. And then while Aura Mastery is active, 30% of all damage is redirected and reduced by 75%, which that second effect is completely different than what it does on live. And then there's Aura of Mercy. So just small change to it, restores health to 3 injured allies within 10 yards every 2 seconds. On live, that's 1 second. And then while Aura Mastery is active, heals all allies in the aura, and healing is increased by 100%. So that part is the same. Then we have the level 75 tier, just has one ability that has a slight change to it, which is Judgment of Light. So Judgment now causes the next 25 successful attacks. On live, that's 40 next successful attacks against the target to heal the attacker for some amount. Holy Prism, not changed. 20-second cooldown, you fire Beam of Light that scatters to strike a clump of targets. If the beam is aimed at an enemy target, it deals holy damage and radiates healing up to 5 injured allies within 15 yards. If the beam is aimed at a friendly target, it heals them and radiates deals holy damage to 5 enemies within 15 yards. So it's not changed. And then there's Holy Avenger, which is not changed. 1.5 minute cooldown, increases your haste by 30% and your Holy Shock healing by 30% for 20 seconds. And then we have the level 90 tier. So Sanctified Wrath is not changed. Avenging Wrath lasts 25% longer and also reduces Holy Shock's cooldown by 50% for its duration. And then we have Avenging Crusader. So this used to be an honor talent. Now it's a normal talent, and it has some changes to it. So its cooldown is being increased from 1 minute to 2 minutes. It's still going to replace Avenging Wrath. You become the Ultimate Crusader of Light, increasing your Crusader Strike, Judgment, and auto attack damage by 30%. That part is the same on live. Crusader Strike and Judgment cool down 30% faster, which is the same on live, and heal up to 3 injured allies, which on live it's 2 injured allies, so it's going up to 3, for 250% of damage they deal. On live, that is 175%. So those percentages and its effect is being increased, it's being buffed, but its cooldown is doubling. And then Awakening is actually new, so it's a passive. Light of Dawn has a 15% chance to grant you Avenging Wrath for 10 seconds. So That's a nice one right there. And then the level 100 tier. So Divine Purpose was moved down a few tiers, and just a small, I believe, buff to it. So casting Light of Dawn or Holy Shock has a 20% chance, on live it's 15%, to not trigger the spell's cooldown and to make next cast free. And then Beacon of Faith did have a nerf to it, so mark a second target as a beacon mimicking the effects of Beacon of Light. Your heals will now heal both you and the beacon, but at a 30% reduced effectiveness. On live, that's a 20% reduced effectiveness. And then Beacon of Virtue. So it's still a 15-second cooldown, still replaces Beacon of Light. Applies a Beacon of Light to your target and 3 injured allies within 30 yards for 8 seconds. All affected allies will be healed for 40% of the amount of your other healing done, which is the same on live. Your Flash of Light and Holy Light on these targets will also refund 25% of their mana cost. On live, that's a 30% of their mana cost. So it will refund less mana now. But yeah. Those are all of the talents. Now let's take a look at the PvP talents. So if you're unaware of how PvP talents will work in BFA, this is how it goes. You have these 4 bubbles here. This first bubble is the same for all classes and all specs. It has Gladiator's Medallion, Adaptation, and Relentless. They're all on the first tier on live, and in BFA you still get to pick between one of them, and their effects are not changed at all. Now these next 3 bubbles are a giant pool of your already existing PvP talents, so it's no longer on a tier system. So all of these, you can pick just 3 of them. They've just pruned a few of them off, but as far as changes go, most of them have not been changed. There's only like 2 changes to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mouse over them, and I'm just going to read the name. If you want to know what they do, you can look at your Holy Paladin, or you can pause the video, but for the ones that have changed, I'll of course explain what those changes are. So the first change is with Pure of Heart. Whenever you or allies within 20 yards are healed from any source, they are cleansed of 1 disease and poison effect. On live, that's all diseases and poison effects. So that is going down to just 1 disease and a poison effect. So yeah, there's that. And then Avenging Light, Ultimate Sacrifice, Darkest Before the Dawn, Spread the Word, Blessed Hands, Divine Vision, Cleanse the Weak, Divine Favor, Light's Grace, and Hallowed Ground. Now, Hallowed Ground is actually new to Holy. This used to be protection only, but yeah, it's not changed at all. Your Consecration clears and suppresses all snare effects on allies within its area of effect. That actually seems like it's going to be really good, considering Consecration's cooldown is going down to a very short cooldown. I mean, it wasn't really a long cooldown before, but it's halved, which is something. But yeah, those are all of the PvP talents as well as all of the normal talents. And there you have it, all of the changes to Holy Paladins in the Battle for Azeroth beta. And I'm curious to know what you guys think. Do you like these changes or do you hate them? You can let me know in the comments below. But if you guys enjoyed this video, then you can leave a like on it. You can sub to the channel for more videos like this. And I'll see you guys in the next video.